Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Q&Play. Apologies in advance for the terrible Minecraft gameplay in the background. Me and my D&D party are trying our best, some of us more sober than others. The first question comes from Xandy Pena. Favorite race/class and least favorite to have at your table. What would you consider a balanced table? So first question first, favorite race/class to have. Honestly, in terms of races that I like to have at the table, that I like having for aesthetic purposes, which is pretty much the only reason I will prefer one species/race over another, considering that most of the racial bonuses, my players don't usually take advantage of those. Who knows, that might change with whatever changes they're making to species in the next edition of D&D. But at the end of the day, what race do I like for aesthetic purposes? I'm gonna have to say Changeling. Changeling is just a really cool species to have at your table. I really like the mysterious backgrounds that can often come with them very naturally. And also, I just like the idea of a shape-shifting player character. There's a lot of possibilities there, and of all of the racial abilities a character can have, that one has tons of different uses in mostly roleplay situations. But if I'm being honest, I am just kind of down with whatever my players pick. I've never had a player pick a species and then I respond with, kind of wish it was something different. Like, that never happens. Almost always, I'm completely 100% down with what my players pick, with the exception of Aarakocra, which none of my players pick anyway. If I'm being honest, I'm just not a fan of flying at level 1. I feel like that's something that you need to invest in, something that a player should have to invest in order to earn, at the very least, level up a little bit to get it. But Aarakocra gang flying at level 1 totally makes sense. They are burbs. However, it's just not something that I'm a huge fan of at my table. I don't have a problem with big bird people necessarily, but, you know, not my favorite, certainly. In terms of classes that I like having at the table, okay, on the like side, I'm gonna have to go with Warlock. If you pick Warlock, I'm automatically going to be excited because of the patron. Warlock patrons are a built-in roleplay hook that I can work with to an astounding degree. There's so much a DM can do with Warlock patrons, no matter what patron the player chooses. Ginny D did a whole video about the Warlock patron, how to make them awesome, and all those possibilities just really excite me, which kind of sucks considering we've never had a full-fledged Warlock at my table ever. Whether it be a streamed game or home game, I've never run for a Warlock player character, or at least a dedicated Warlock player character. I once had a fighter multi-class into Warlock, but a full-fledged, down from level 1 Warlock is something I would totally be hyped for, considering that patron-player relationship is just so cool. On the dislike side, as a DM, I don't dislike any of the classes. I mean, there are certainly some that I favorite, like the Warlock, but all the others are perfectly awesome and perfectly serviceable from a story building standpoint. In fact, all of them have major strengths. So no matter what class the players pick, I'm pretty much always excited. I don't like reading through homebrew classes though. I'm not talking about homebrew specs. I'm talking about full homebrew classes. That is a little bit much. If I have to read through the whole damn thing, it's just gonna take forever, especially since a full class is much more involved than a single subclass or spec. So it can be a bit more of a pain. That is, I don't know if that counts, but that is the one thing I don't like when it comes to classes, is somebody presenting me with a homebrew class. I usually prefer they just pick what is in the official book, including Blood Hunter and Artificer as well. Alright, next question comes from RatBuddy2. What is the strangest show/movie you've ever seen? I mean something that left you confused for a decent amount of time. I can't think of a show/movie that left me confused at all, honestly. Like, there have been movies/shows where I'm confused as to why they're so bad. One book that really confused me was Kafka on the Shore, but from what I understand, that's sort of the writer's thing. His books are kind of, I don't know if ephemeral is the right word, but that's the word that came to mind when I thought of Kafka on the Shore. I know somebody in the comments is rushing down to go, oh my god, you don't understand Kafka on the Shore, you're so stupid. But no, when the first time I read that book, I did not get it. Oh, wait, no, I got it. The show that left me the most confused is easily Riverdale. Riverdale confuses the hell out of me, and I have not I have not watched the whole show. However, I have watched seasons 1 and 2 and a little bit of 3 due to just osmosis by watching some clips on YouTube. I believe they're called Riverdale is on Crack, or the writers of Riverdale are on crack, which is not entirely inaccurate from what I can tell. Riverdale is a super popular show, or at least it was a super popular show, that has no right to be this terrible. I know that at least most of these actors are very good at what they do. They have some decent source material, and the idea of Archie Andrews and his friends going through a more mature murder mystery, that could be interesting. But then you put in the hands of Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa, who is incompetent in every way when it comes to show running, and you get Riverdale, which is a show that's just so confusingly terrible, and I'm sorry for the crassness, horny as well, that it is just boggling to the mind. It's truly a horrendous show. It's probably one of the worst shows on television, if not the worst show on television. On top of that, they did a really weird satanic panic plot with like a rip-off D&D game in season 3. Again, I didn't see the whole season, so I only know bits and pieces, but it was like a front for a cult or something. I have no idea what was going on, but yeah, they did a satanic panic story. Wonderful, right? Just wonderful. The whole show just reeks of a product that was made by people who have no idea what they're doing. And it really hurts me to say that because I don't like saying that about people and their work, but truly, this show is something special in the category of being horrendous and confusing at the same time. Question from Nathan Kirk. Hey, I'm sure you're very busy with working on things on your channel, but I was wondering if you had any plans for traveling this year. No. Question from Knic. Who or what got you interested in Dungeons & Dragons? Have you introduced a friend to the game? Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, I've introduced all my friends to the game because if they have any conversations with me or walk into my apartment, it's kind of hard not to be introduced to Dungeons & Dragons in some way. I haven't played with all of my friends because not all my friends are interested in this game, which is perfectly fine. Everyone's got their own hobbies and interests. But yeah, a lot of my friends are part of my D&D group. My first ever D&D group that I ran the game for is comprised exclusively of my close group of friends, and we have been playing together for like 4 to 5 years now or something crazy like that. So yeah, I've definitely introduced them to Dungeons & Dragons, whereas the rest of my friends, they're introduced to the game just by virtue of being near a person who makes a large portion of their living off of talking about Dungeons & Dragons. So yeah, it's kind of hard for them to miss. In terms of who got me interested in D&D, the first time I heard about D&D was 2014 or 2015, not that long ago, but as I say those dates out loud, I realize that's 7 to 8 years ago, so a decent amount of time ago. I was introduced to the game through a YouTube series called, I believe, D&D December, which led me to the show Dice Camera Action on the Dungeons & Dragons YouTube channel, and that introduced me to Curse of Strahd, which was the first module I ever ran, which went great. That's sarcasm. But that's actually largely unrelated. When I first watched Dice Camera Action, that got me into playing D&D, but I didn't think I had the gusto to be the Dungeon Master until I watched Matt Mercer and Critical Role in 2017, and that's when I started DMing the game. That's when I really was like, okay, I want to be the DM now. And then, like a year or two later, I did my first Curse of Strahd campaign, and it was interesting. We will leave it at that. Question from Phobia Witch. What's one of your favorite homebrew rules you've used in your Dungeons & Dragons games? So my favorite homebrew rule is undoubtedly confirmed crits and confirmed fails. A lot of people interpret it as me making it so that there's a 1 in 400 chance to get a critical success. That's not true. It's still a 1 in 20 chance to get a critical success or critical fail. Roll a nat 1 or nat 20. But on top of that, when you get a nat 1 or nat 20, you roll again. If you get another nat 1 or another nat 20, something either miraculous or disastrous happens, depending on if it's a double nat 20 or a double nat 1. It just adds an extra layer of, what if something insane happened here? Like, for example, my players were trying to revive a down player character, and we use resurrection rituals. During that ritual, one of the players rolled a double nat 20, and it was a really tense situation. We didn't know if the players would have enough good dice rolls to bring back this person, but then the ranger miraculously rolls double nat 20s, and everyone freaks the hell out, and the rogue is brought back to life from the brink of death itself. It was a perfect moment. I love this rule so much. It's nice and simple. I mean, apparently it's not simple for a lot of people because when watching Shadow over Carconos, a lot of people don't read the text prompts I put on the screen to explain things. Also, if you roll anything other than a double nat 20 or double nat 1, it doesn't change anything. If you roll a nat 1 and then you roll a 19, if you roll a nat 1, then you roll a nat 20, hell, that doesn't matter. You still have a nat 1. It's just you don't have something disastrous happen on top of it. Next question comes from TheBrainsturgeon. As a saxophone player, what's your opinion on Leo Pellegrino, especially his Night of the Proms performance. Okay, if you're not familiar with Leo P, the saxophonist, or any of the bands he's worked with, I'm sorry, I'm gonna throw a bunch of names out that you might not recognize. Feel free to skip this question. Anyway, so Leo P, I really like him. I really like a lot of his music, though I don't listen to his full catalog. I'm not like an ultra fan. Too Many Zoos is great, they're good, but not exactly my taste, though some of their work does make it into my regular playlist. For example, their collaboration with Moon Hooch, incredible. Amazing. Leo P was on fire in that performance. Speaking of, he's also a master when he's performing with Grace Kelly. Oh my god, the two of them bounce off each other so damn well. Too Saxy is probably one of my favorite music duos of all time. They work together perfectly, and their music is almost always a jam for me. I love everything they put out. Leo P doesn't play with Lucky Chops anymore. I still like Lucky Chops a lot even without him, but his work with them is also really, really, really damn good. Now, Night of the Proms, the performance that Brainsturgeon here asked about, it is pretty much one of my favorite concerts I've ever watched. I really regret not being there in person, not that I think that was possible for me, though I think that performance is just masterful. I will never forget the first time I saw him walk out after a really awesome concert. The whole concert is a masterpiece. Like, I listened to it with a friend of mine who is a very, very talented tenor saxophone player. His name is Andy. And we were watching Leo P walk out and then perform Brass House, and we were both blown away. It was amazing because he had been in the concert previously, but he had never unleashed his full power, you know, that force of personality and performance that he puts out there. But then he goes from playing Brass House to leading into Moanin', which is my favorite Mingus song. I know, basic pick, but still, it's a great piece of music. And obviously, Moanin' was going to be in this concert. It was a concert dedicated to Mingus. They have a Barry saxophone player in the lineup. Obviously, he's going to play the iconic song. However, the thing is, Leo P opened up with Brass House, a song that came out of basically nowhere. No one saw it coming, lit the audience on fire. Your brain is still focused on that, and then he leads directly into the licks from Moanin'. And your brain just automatically switches to, oh crap, now he's doing it. That switch was brilliant, and I'll never forget the goosebumps I got when Andy and I were watching it on his phone, and we were both freaking the hell out when he started playing that lick. It was just incredible. Amazing. The whole concert is nothing short of pure art. Even though I don't think Leo P would crack out as my favorite all-time jazz player, though if I'm being honest with myself, I need to think about who would even own that title because I've got like 10 musicians rattling around my brain right now, but he is a damn fine Barry sax player, and on top of that, he is such a brilliant stage presence. The guy just has a force of personality that makes you just want to have fun. If anyone has their charisma stat at max, it's that dude. Final question from Easiest CC. Have you ever DM'd a session and felt bad about it afterwards? Yesterday I tried to DM for my first time, and it was a one-shot adventure from GM Binder. When it came time to actually start the game, I was confused because the GM Binder file never actually says how to start the game. I really like role-playing this one NPC, though that was just one side to the whole experience. Once the game actually started and the inciting incident happened, I was confused, and in turn my players were confused because the module doesn't tell the DM or the players what they can do with the clues given or how to progress. All of us eventually gave up and just ran level 20 combat encounters against ancient dragons until it started getting pretty late. It really sucked because I wanted the new person in our group to have a good first impression of the game. Obviously, there were some mistakes made here, but first and foremost, if I'm being honest, guys, your first DMing experience is probably going to not go very well for you because you're new, and DMing is really hard. It's not easy to be a DM for any sort of TTRPG, so when you're starting out, you're gonna make mistakes. Some of them are gonna be big-ass mistakes. Here, I think the big thing was using a GM Binder one-shot for your first ever adventure as a DM. That is not necessarily a recipe for disaster. There are some really damn good third-party adventures out there on GM Binder, and I'm not trying to call them all out as bad, because that would be completely untrue. However, it's really hard to find one that matches what you want to run and your particular skill set. Whereas there are plenty of official modules out there that are specifically designed for just general new DMs, and all of them are pretty good at what they do. I mean, the new starter set Stormwreck Isle is really damn good, and that's just for D&D. I'm sure every single one of the TTRPGs out there that are even somewhat popular have some kind of starter set with an adventure made to be the first ever time for the DM. Also, if you really want to get down to prep for your first ever time, if you're running something official, something that's popular, there are plenty of YouTube videos out there that can guide you through what to do. So yeah, that Stormwreck Isle example I just gave, Bob World Builder has a couple of extensive videos that go over how to do that adventure and what mistakes to avoid. And it's a great video, and it's a great adventure. Again, third-party adventures are really, really good, but you need to also be good at sifting through what to do with them. Here, we see a DM who is clearly at least a little bit confused with how to start the game and how to run the game, because as a new dungeon master, it's hard to literally look through the PDF to actually figure out what you're supposed to do, which is why I generally try to avoid third-party adventures that are usually meant for someone who is experienced. Anyway, yeah, there's my recommendations. Try to run official modules when you are brand new to the game. It's just going to be easier for you to parse through it and figure out what you need to learn, and to learn it when you need to learn. Anyway, have I ever felt bad about a session? Well, that has happened a few times. Most recently, there was a session where my players were really distracted. We were playing online for a while, but an opportunity arose to have in-person sessions, and unfortunately, it came with a few hurdles. At first, it was pretty much all sunshine and rainbows. It was great. Playing in person was a great change of pace, and here, we were having a lot of fun, but at this particular session, the players were uber distracted. One of them was fiddling around with the soundboard, a couple of them were just kind of phased out, and on top of that, I wasn't running the game very well. The combat was dreadfully boring, with not much for the players to do other than just hit the monster, no extra mechanics for them to engage with or interesting abilities for them to counter, because I prepped it very, very last minute, and my players are used to a little bit more from me as their dungeon master, and I didn't deliver it that day. On top of that, because some of my players were getting a little bit distracted, I was getting very frustrated. On top of that, I didn't have much sleep in me, so I was just really on the edge of my rope, and I didn't like explode at them just because I'm not a very angry person, but you know, we talked about it a little bit afterwards, and you know, apologies were said, we figured it out, because that's at the end what friends do. But yeah, that was a session where I kind of felt bad afterwards, because yes, my players were distracted, and yeah, that's partially on them, the players that were distracted, that is. However, it's also my job to engage them, and I wasn't doing my job. Like, as a dungeon master, I wasn't creating something engaging because I prepped everything so last minute that I had nothing ready. I don't blame them for being a little bit distracted, because I wasn't doing my job very well and I was kind of wasting their time. I learned my lesson, and after that, we had by far the best boss fight of my DMing career, and it just reignited my spark for this game. I started to fall in love with it yet again, and yeah, we recovered, because one frustrating session is not enough to break up a group. We got back together again, and we had an even better experience, and since then, we've basically had nothing but fire sessions. I mean, seriously, it's been such a great campaign. So yeah, let that be a lesson. Even when you mess up, you can bounce back and make something even better. Alright, and that's going to be it for today's episode of Q&Play. If you guys enjoyed it, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of our content, then you can check out Tavern Adjacent, our podcast where we talk all things Dungeons and Dragons while also listening to your horror stories. It's linked in the cards. And while you're there, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down into the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment Bed Wars to let me know you made it to the end of the video. And that's like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.